Hey, welcome back, everybody. Here's truly Derek T. Stevens. I am the Crow on the forums. I do the Crow's Nest daily drops. My handler tonight is 50 Shades of Nelson. Tonight we're going to be talking about classes, different aspects of character classes in the game for humans. We've really harped and pounded on the military side, and I want to show you what I've done tonight. We're going to be talking about the comic book pages, how we're going to put them and implement them on the web page, when we're going to do that. In fact, yes, Mr. 50 Shades of Nelson, I'm putting you on the spotlight and putting you back to the corner so you can give us a definite date. According to Mr. Ray, and I do trust him with my life, we are close to having like 12 to 15 pages done. Very shortly by the end of the week. By next Friday, I'll have mine done, and Wolf's got a lot of work to coloring. I definitely want more people to step up if they want to color. I'm looking for the big J to get his Bible, so to speak, done on character classes and different aspects that we need to work for and work on. If you can, go ahead and bring Mr. J. Well, Patsy, Mr. J is like the Joker, but even cooler. And Mr. Steve Curtis, so we can discuss this Tuesday.
Mr. Who and Steve?
Big J, Big Jizz, Big Jazzy dude. My wife just snickered. That's his real name.
Yes, it is. What's up?
My wife said, "Okay, Mr. J, what is your last name again? How do you pronounce it?"
It's Jizba.
Jizba. His name is Mr. Jizba. In college, they call him a big. So I'm going to call him Mr. J.
It's just fine.
Mr. J.
That is just fine. We like Mr. J.
I'm picturing you, white face, big, goofy grin, and playing gasoline right now.
You never know. I could be.
Well, that's awesome. Mr. Steve Curtis, throw a quick recap on I want your voice to be heard. What's going on with 3D Buzz and how it's going to tie into the MMO class? I know we've discussed about splitting some time, and I don't want to say anything out of turn, so I want it to come from you.
Well, I posted it up on the forums. Starting next week, we will start splitting the class and spend the first half on design and the second half on art and modeling aspects. We figured since so many of the art people wanted to be involved in the design side, that would be the easiest way to cover our bases, and that way anybody who comes in who only wants to be involved in design can spend that hour and then get out without having to wade through art stuff. So that was our best of all possible worlds solution for that. We have a ton of new classes coming up. Approximately 5 by the end of this month in VTM format. Derek's doing a free class on manga. He's got a steampunk class coming up. We're starting to gear up to many hours out of the week and get 3D Buzz just rocking and rolling.
Amen to that, brother. It's about time. Buzz, I love the aspect and again the mission statements. I want to provide, and like they have before, quality training at a very reasonable, if not free price. We got daily drops. I do the Crow's Nest. Today my first one's up. Learn how to draw the human head from the front side, and we'd have different aspects from drawing mermaids, dwarves, centaurs, different anatomy stuff from side profiles, eyes, lips, ears. We'll have some on hands. The manga class is a chippy style. For those of you who do not know what chippy style is, let me open up my screen real quick right here. Go ahead and continue to talk while I do that, Mr. Steve.
Okay.
Say something. Say something informative.
Something informative?
Yes.
I thought I just did all that. Goodness. Who's working on the design document? Is anyone working on the design document?
Big J, Mr. J is.
I'm working on it at the moment. I'm not too far into it just because I picked up some extra hours at work this week, but I'm definitely going through it.
Come next week, will you kind of have at least an outline of what we need to talk about?
Yeah, I can actually do the outline stuff we need to talk about this week, if we have to.
That would be awesome, so that we're not just kind of wallowing through that first hour.
Okay.
Get some actual decisions made, and then tell the art team what they need to do.
Yeah, because most of my problem looking at this document is trying to figure out what we actually need to do first, and I've got like a bunch of questions about the world and stuff still this week.
You know what? Well, let's tell you what. Let me show you the chippy stuff because it's on my screen right now. I'll talk a little bit about that. We'll go through our art stuff, and then I want you to ask some questions with the core art team. Most of these guys and gals have been here since day one. It's like a solid family. I'd rather be with these guys shoulder to shoulder than, paying mercenaries that come in and do our work, because these guys will give it their all. So on screen right now, this is the chippy style I'm talking about. I'll do a 3 to 4 week class on how to draw these little cute guys. Very basic, very cartoon. I'm going to take it from building blocks all the way to dropping color on them, and it'll be fun. Again, it's free. It's for everyone who's a member sponsor or not a member sponsor. I'm really hoping that we can get more people interested in drawing, character design, which can lead into game design as well. And hopefully we'll get more in our ranks who are passionate about making a game. Hoorah!
Hoorah! But yeah, Big J, if you at least had kind of a framework of questions you wanted to ask, and then I think all of us getting together to help get that design document put out would be probably the best place for us to start. So.
Okay, yeah, I've got questions like, are we going to have it like, is this game taking place on one planet, or are we going to have multiple planets, since both races, I'm assuming, can travel to different stars?
Nobody's ever asked, but I think the assumption's kind of been it's all just going to take place on Alethea.
Okay, because I was just thinking if you had multiple planets, it'd be a lot easier to set up like big zones you could explore without having to worry about streaming in different areas as you ran between them. Like you could just go hop on your ship and fly to the next place.
That'll open up a whole bevy of other questions, like with a small team that's never done this before, how big a world do we really think we can make and actually get it done?
Yeah.
So those are all questions to definitely bring to the table and see what everybody thinks next week.
Then the other thing was when I was going to make my class, I had a bunch of questions like, what do we want the max level to be for the characters? How do we want to balance the game? Do we want to do like a paper, rock, scissors kind of thing? Or do we want to try, it'll be hard, but I think it's a lot more fun. It's called asymmetrical balance, where everyone has slightly different abilities and no one's really more powerful than anyone else. It's really hard to set up, but if
you mean quantum decision making?
Yeah, if you've ever played like a MOBA like League of Legends or something where you have like hundreds of champions and each one has like 5 different abilities or 4 different abilities that are completely different from every other champion's, and yet you can sort of play against each other and it sort of works out where everything's sort of balanced, like even though everyone has some different abilities. It's hard to do, but it's doable as long as you set up some guidelines before anyone makes anything for any of the classes.
I can't wait for that class.
My brain just exploded.
We need Aaron to get in here for quantum decision making.
No kidding.
Okay, yeah, and so then there's like the controls. We want to do like the system I described or like the standard, give the abilities all across the number keys and different action bars and stuff. And I think we did, leveling system was like story-based where you get experience for finishing chunks of the story, so I think that's pretty nailed down. But we need to know stuff like what's the conflict of the game going to be? Like, is it going to be just entirely between the Alethians and the humans, or is it going to be something like the Alethians' little like silicon crystal things got into human technology and sort of rebelled against both of them? So you've got to go find the little giant robots the crystal guys are making or something.
I think largely it's going to just be a PvP between the Alethians and the humans.
Okay, yeah, that'd probably be easiest, but
scale that we think we can accomplish.
All right, let's hold off on these questions. I definitely want to get to the art, and I want the second half to be that. Is that cool? Or actually, you know what?
Let's do that. Get a bunch of those written down and email them to me, and then that way, if we have anybody who does come in new next week, we'll have just a whole list of questions we can start discussing.
Okay, and what's your email again? I'm having trouble keeping them straight.
Here, I'll put it. It's pronouncing it will not help you, so.
It's sexy old man at.
That's what I was thinking it was going to be.
All right, talking about class system. I got you, Mr. J. I have 4 characters up through here in Manga Studio, by the way.
Wow, the third one. You just couldn't help yourself, could you?
There's something covering that, okay? So it's not vulgar. No, I cannot help myself. Funny story, dude, Christopher Shy talked about him quite a bit, but there's a cover he did for a book, and they call it the nipple factor. Nipple's not a dirty word, okay? So I'm not, Angie won't kill me. We won't dwell on the nipple too much, but it was a 3/4 shot, and the girl had a shirt on, but it must have been cold in there because it was kind of pointy at that aspect. And the art director's like, this book is going to sell a lot because of the nipple factor. So that's why I kind of put, it's covered right there. There you go. Just exploring different ideas for different clothing and fashion that might be through the capital and cities, and working on classes. So let's just, since we're already playing around this area right here with the girl with the bun and that, what class do you think she would be, Mr. J?
I don't know. I haven't thought too much about the classes entirely. I've been thinking about other stuff, but I could see her being like, I don't know. She doesn't really have any weapons. She could be like a healer or something. I don't know what she'd do, like a medic kind of thing.
That would make me feel better.
I know, right?
I couldn't resist.
I know. I was thinking more like a debutante, sort of a spy class. And again, in Star Wars, you have the whole aspect of being a secret operative. I can see some sort of secret operative dressing the extreme like that to infiltrate and do X, Y, and Z. I'm not for sure what Alethians will think of human anatomy, but in the game aspect, I would really like to see humans fighting with humans and Alethians fighting with Alethians as well, different factions going on, and try, like real life, trying to take power.
That could be interesting, yeah. I'm wondering like how she'd fight people though. Like there aren't many places you could hide like a knife in that outfit.
Well, true. She could be a Fembot and have lasers poking out of her eyes or something.
Fembot.
Fembot. She could utilize magic, things that are, or like the Iron Man in her hand, sort of thing. Again, these are just really quick aspects. I'm thinking of an operator who goes in. She has some sort of stun, gas pellet sort of thing. Again, very light armor. You're in, you're out. And again, because I'm a role player, I really hope that we come up with different textures to throw on our people that they're able to buy and be able to show that character's personality instead of just coming up with two, aspects. Like Guild Wars. Guild Wars was fun, but I really hated the aspect. I played a rogue, and all I could wear is, cloth. It was just leather armor. I couldn't wear cloth, I don't think. In World of Warcraft, I could wear cloth or leather. And then the best of the abilities, you're playing a fighter, so you can wear plate all the way down to cloth. I didn't like those aspects.
We could just do what Star Wars did and make socketed items where you put in like armoring and other kinds of little doohickeys that make your armor what it's like, give it all its stats, but you can build it out of whatever you want kind of thing. So you could have like a dress that's like super heavy armor just because you add in a bunch of armor plates or something like that.
I like that, or just even the aspect of like, here's a little button, I have a force shield around my person, kind of like the Green Lantern sort of thing. That might be kind of cool as well.
It reminds me of the old Diablo system.
Yeah, it's going to depend on... I was thinking we'd do more like socketed items kind of stuff, just so you could... We wouldn't have to do like a huge number of like stuff for people to wear, but you'd be able to make it really customizable and look however they want it anyway.
I like the idea. Hey, Mr. 50 Shades of Nelson, how are you doing on that one project? How soon can we come in and start doing stuff?
At some point.
Man, a few words and very ambiguous. He's going to be running for a political career pretty soon. He's going to be running on the Pony platform. That's pretty hard to say. All right, let's do the main chick here, the big chick with the gauntlet and the Assassin's Creed's dagger here. Let me get my pointer. Right here. So what class do you think this chick is going to be?
I was thinking she was going to be more the rogue assassin type, because that dagger sort of makes me think she's going to sneak up behind people and stab them in the back with that.
You would be worth $1 million right now, because that's exactly what I was thinking. I got the whole steampunk aspect going on with the goggles, and again, I got nailed this week, Mr. Steve Curtis. You seen the girls I drew for Heavy Cat? I had to like actually draw clothes on them instead of taped stuff over their body. Like they're like, we really like the way you draw girls, but instead of doing your usual stuff, can you put more clothes on them, please? My wife just chuckled.
That's the second time they've called you out.
I know, right? I do this hot chick who's a witch, and I gave her a skirt that I wanted to be sheer, so you could see that her frame. She had a beautiful bottom, very curvesque and this and nice. And Steve actually colored it for me, and it looked beautiful. And Kat said, "Man, I really love this, but could you please put some pants on her?"
Well, they said that before I colored it. I colored it out.
That's not how I remember it. I thought it was just awesome. And who, girls in pants? I mean, come on. It's like you're going to let them vote?
Well, she was still in a skirt, but I just made it not sheer so that you couldn't see those outlines.
Yeah, I know. Should not be ashamed of a pretty human body. Let's stop dwelling on the body, shall we? Let's talk about this dude right here with the big sniper-looking rifle.
He's obviously going to be shooting people from a distance. He's going to have on like some sweet like binocular things and scope people out and shoot them.
Very true. And it's because we have a big sniper rifle. And by the way, you should never put your barrel in the ground like that. That's bad mojo. That's my fault for drawing it like that. The barrel should never go in the ground and get dirty. So shame on me, and I will do 500 push-ups during break, okay?
Okay. I'm going to listen to you doing that, and I'm going to laugh.
Stop that. Okay, this dude here, what do you think?
I could see him running up to people and hitting him in the mouth, and maybe slapping some C4 on them and then running away.
I like it. I was thinking kind of like, again, all these guys have rogue-type elements in it. That's what I usually play.
He strikes me as kind of like a berserker, jumps into the middle of the fray and just brawls.
I was thinking of a class and calling it a sapper, and most of what they do is just run up and stick explosives on things and then blow them up even if they're too close.
I like that. I remember in the old World of Warcraft, the strategy game, you had your dwarves, suicide bombers. Okay, that's politically incorrect to say nowadays, but it was funny to watch them go, ah!
Well, now Borderlands has the grenade psychos that run up to you with a live grenade and kill themselves. And usually you too.
That's awesome.
Yep.
All right. And I wanted to show off my...
It's kind of reminiscent of that.
Well, cool. I also wanted to show off my 3D skill building modeling aspects. There's some different ship ideas. Again, these are vector rendered out. They could be drop ships, personal shuttles. And I, too, it's amazing you were talking about that, Mr. J, about going to different planets for zones, because I was looking at what Richard was doing with his drop ships. And I would really like to be able to either take these ships and put them in a different zone. And I know what? I know I'm thinking big, but why not shoot for the stars? The space combat in Star Wars they're on a rail system.
Yeah, you're thinking more Star Trek Online, because that stuff is pretty good. That's the reason why you play that game, is their space combat.
Cool. I just downloaded the new Star Trek game from the movie, Fighting the Gorn. It's very linear, and there's no role-playing aspect in it. It's basically Mass Effect with Gorn.
That actually sounds kind of fun, I'm not going to lie. I like Mass Effect.
I loved Mass Effect 1 and 2. And don't get me wrong, I loved it. I only had the same choice at the very end after all the hours I put into it.
I don't know. The ending was just sort of the ending. I sort of saw what happened with all the characters leading up to that. It's the real ending to the story.
I didn't mind, because the part I didn't mind is if I'm going to die a hero, I kind of planned that. I kind of was expecting that. But before they downloaded the downloadable content, I was worried about my crew. What happened to my people? As a good leader, I'd invested all this time in all my people. What happened to them?
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't show me.
I'm pretty sure that was EA cutting it, because they were just like, you can't have like a half-hour-long cutscene at the end of this game, so we're going to chop all this stuff out of it. And they lost a lot of it, from what I heard reading like developer blogs and stuff for Mass Effect.
Do you think they rushed it?
No, I think they got a lot of it cut. Like, EA was just like, you have too much planned for this, you need to cut all of it out. And it wasn't until people complained that EA was just like, okay, go back in and fix that.
Oh, yep. I hear there's going to be another Mass Effect series coming out. I'm not for sure when, but I know it's in development. I am not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm excited about that. And I know we can't make a game like Mass Effect 3
No, we can't.
with all the choices. One day. I like storytelling. Okay, this is basically a rip-off of the Jawa series.
You know what I really like, Derek? I really like all of our students being able to show an actual online game in their portfolio.
Think about how great it'd be if it was like a Mass Effect game.
Well, we could get to a Mass Effect game. What you need to do is start off either pick scale in terms of you don't want to do all the levels for the alpha build of it, or you want to do everything and just not have all the content you'd like in there. You can do one of two things.
Mind you, Mass Effect's not really an MMO.
Yeah, but if we're doing story-driven leveling, then you're gonna have to do something sort of like Mass Effect. It's just gonna be writing these massive branching stories kind of thing.
I can see how this is gonna go, Derek. I'm always gonna get to be the bad guy, aren't I?
Yep. Not even any hesitation, but yep.
All right.
I want some sort of choice, even if it's like two choices. You kill a guy, or you don't kill a guy, and maybe later on, because you didn't kill that guy in your story branch, he comes back and helps you out. Or if you kill them, his family comes and hunts you down. Something like that.
See, the problem is if all those choices are interconnected, you'll have 2 choices at every dialogue option, but if you have 100 options, you'll end up with a ridiculous number of choices by the end of it, because, yeah, it'll get messy.
Congratulations, Steve. You're not the only bad guy now.
Sweet.
I hate you both. But anyway. Again, different aspects.
You know that Wolf's over in BuzzNet going, anybody else got 30 years to kill?
Tell Wolf that he should be quiet and start coloring stuff. All right, so anyway, different planet stuff. I'm going to show you my, hold on, sorry, ladies and James. Okay, my idea, because I was really, really super intrigued by Mr. Ray and when he's talking about the story with the background of the secret-like society who has control of the crystal. I'm big in conspiracy theories. I love the History Channel, the Masons, and this and that. So, again, and I'm very much of a Sith, my role play. I'm thinking the loose robes, different aspects that are close up and personal for combat. I threw this in for you there, Mr. Steve, kind of a spot black sort of feel. And then I drew...
He looks like Dr. Doom.
No, Dr. Doom wishes he looked that cool.
It was a compliment. I like it.
Okay, well, thank you. And then I threw in this idea of a steampunk sort of guy with the big things in the back. Hold on. Let me get my... Duke. They should come back down and around here like a power source all the way through here. On his back, it's all strapped in there, and I'm sure it's not very comfortable. And that gives him his power. He's got some sort of steampunk gas mask looking thing on. Again, trying different aspects and different styles of what we can make him look like. My idea is underneath the mask, they're very emaciated, possibly because they've been around this crystal form for so long, and it's drawing the life energy out of them. And I want Mr. Ray to hear this and see what he thinks. We'll bring him in a second. But possibly because these guys are doing it wrong, or this living entity of the crystal knows that it's being used and it's sucking their life force out to, I guess, elongate their life force. I want something bad to go in with what these guys are doing with trying to corrupt them, sort of thing. So that's what I came up this week. So who is next? Raise your hand and let's look at the art aspect. Mr. 50 Shades of Nelson, go ahead and bring Mr. Ray in as well. Pretty please.
Can you hear me?
I see you, Ray.
I can hear you. How you doing, Mr. Ray?
Doing good.
We got ourselves a real bona fide, awesome genius who's also a bad guy just like Mr. Steve. So both of us like him.
Well, I do have to agree with Steve that you have to start doable and work up from there.
No, I totally agree. But I also want to shoot for the stars, if that makes sense.
Well, but first you had to get something in orbit before you could go to the moon, and then you could go to Mars, and eventually you get out that far.
Yeah, I want the propulsion system to break orbit first.
So, has anyone played any of the games? Like, a lot of people are releasing alpha games just to get funding for what they're doing now, like, before they have most of the content in there, basically. I'm thinking we could do something the same where we build the world first and populate it with some really basic generic things that would let people level up. But as time goes on, you start working on, like, the quest and the interesting story stuff, and you'd start with, like, starting zones and just build up from there. We'd have to make it so you could script events inside the game engine. So it'd be like...
Sounds good to me.
I like that idea because it would give us a chance to get the bare bones out right away to let people see what they can see. Speaking of that, Mr. Steve, that link that you sent me to EverQuest, if you can bring that up to your screen, I kind of want, once we take your screen, if you can show that.
I could put the link in BuzzNet.
You can do that as well. This is the idea, that, and Steve brought it to me, and I thought it was pretty darn ambitious, but this is the kind of aspect that he is looking for.
Well, all I was saying was that was kind of in my head the way the artwork would look, because I know Jason does want it to be third person.
Right. I like that aspect. Bring Nitro in too, because if you can, he's got some game development experience. I want to introduce these guys, Mr. J and to Nitro. Nitro's been around for a long time, and he's got some really good ideas as well. Real quick, does anybody else have any art stuff while we're doing all this that they can show off and talk about?
I do. Well, Paige.
And Nitro did say in BuzzNet that was something that he had wrote about a while ago, and have milestones that introduce new content down the line. First phase would really be person versus person, small environment, combat focus, not a lot of questing or leveling. And I do have to say that I think that is really pretty much the only way in any reasonable amount of time we will get the game out there.
Yeah, I was thinking we could do something like set up PvP instead of quests to give experience, so you could PvP for experience while we made the PvE content kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think
And
that's probably
again,
the best
then
way.
everybody can put in their portfolio, this game online, I had a piece of making, which is good for everyone.
That I agree with.
Right. I mean, if we start off with the focus being PvP, then as we add new stuff, people can go, oh, let's check out the new stuff. But they don't have to. It doesn't have to like end after that stuff. They go, okay, back to the PvP.
I was even thinking about giving quests like to go fight people in a certain zone we've just finished building or something like that, so they'd go explore the world and fight in the world. Like, so it'd be like world PvP instead of like in an arena or something like that.
Oh, I like that idea.
That could work.
That way we could get the artists building all of like the environments and stuff for the game that we'd need for the storyline later, and still have people like able to run around and actually do something interesting inside that environment.
It also means that we can focus on the combat system and get that sort of solid as well.
Well, maybe they have.
Was that Nitro?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, okay.
Nitro and Mr. J,
Your
Mr. J
voice freaked
Nitro.
me out. I thought it was my head.
Well, I don't want to speak for you, Mr. Nitro, but you will be a part of the development discussion and part of the development team, correct?
Yeah, I hope so.
We're good.
Oh, absolutely.
I nominate Mr. Nitro and Mr. J to start leading the charge.
Okay, sounds good.
To expand on whoever's idea that was, who had the idea to have instead of set arenas, have the battles taking place just in the level
Oh, that'd be me.
or the world.
I think we
Who's
kind of,
the-
I think we
Which
kind of
one
had
is
that idea as well, though.
Yeah.
Who is that?
Just
Mr. J and Nitro, they both kind of had the ideas. It's a different time.
Okay, they both have. Anyway, what you could do, you kind of set it up to fill a little mission base to where after an encounter, after a fight, if one side wins, then maybe, okay, we push back to this fort or something like that. You know, if the other side wins, then they go the other way. You know, kind
Almost
of.
like in Battlefield, Metro, whenever if you lose this one aspect, everyone goes underground and starts fighting.
Yeah, I was thinking we'd set up objectives. We'd have to see how we'll let people build the environment first, then build the game around the worlds kind of things. That way we could have the art team. Anyone that wants to build environments just get started on that.
And speaking of that, Mr. Steve Curtis will be teaching an environment art class very soon.
Indeed.
Sorry, had to throw that in there. Go
By
ahead.
the end of the month, that will be out as a BTM.
Nice.
And that will also be part of the design meeting in terms of layouts and what makes for good gameplay, you know, sniping points, sniping alleys, close quarters combat, things like that. So we're really just aching to get the design side going so that we have something to work with.
Yeah, that's kind of why I'm thinking more about what we can get started with in terms of like environment and stuff, and then work and build on what we can actually get started on in terms of art and environment stuff. So we'll just get the basics for environment done, I guess, next week. I'll come up with a big list of questions for that.
That would be
Mr. Ray is throwing some great tutorials my way for animation and for modeling. And again, that's all. I mean, I've always drawn, but there for a while, all I did was 3D modeling. I'm very anxious to start doing that. Does anybody have any idea on poly counts, what we're going to do for models?
low.
Okay, Mr. 50 Shades of Nelson, how many? I mean, technically, we could do a million poly count sort of like model and do a normal map on top of it.
Well, yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll do high poly models and then bake the maps down to low poly ones. But we're going to be building this in the Unity engine, which is a great engine, but it's not as robust as like UDK or CryEngine. And then you're going to have a ton of people logging into play online. So really the voice of the day is how low can we get away with?
Right.
Okay.
And
Just
then,
out of curiosity, why are we
Well,
using
at the
Unity
look
instead
that-
of one of the other ones?
Say what?
Just out of curiosity, why are we using Unity instead of one of the other engines?
That's where our strongest ability to script code is going to be.
Okay, that makes sense. We'll use
Yeah,
Unity then.
Nelson is very versed in Unity. I think maybe a little, but not much in UDK, and not at all in CryEngine. So
Yeah, I'm pretty good with UDK. I just haven't done any actual, like, I guess it's Unreal script, so like where you use C++ to modify the Unreal engine
yeah,
stuff. But I've got a bunch of tutorials
if
on
you
that.
want me to level build in CryEngine or UDK, I'll be off and running. If you say write me a script for a weapon, I'll be like, oh. So
I like that. Real quick art aspect. I know Wolf's got the page to show. Is Miguel here? Did you come up with anything, buddy?
Miguel should be here.
Or Mr. Clinton? Anybody? Or is Eve here? My diption. I haven't heard from her for ages.
No, sorry, I couldn't get anything by today.
Mr. Nelson kicked him out of the class.
No, please.
Man, Miguel, I can't do that to you.
well,
like
Nelson,
this
I
is
just had a radio show flashback from like 6 months ago.
Good evening, everyone.
I think Miguel did just fine with his water match and grand match, and then his piece of environment work.
Amen to that.
Yeah, he bought himself a pass for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
A week. Not a couple. A week. Miguel, I'm just kidding you, man. I love you. You know that, baby.
No, I'm really sorry I couldn't do anything, but I really wanted to, but I didn't have the time.
I'm glad you're here. Now, my rant before the show started was social aspects. For those who heard that, what do you guys think about the chat bubble thing? How hard would it be to script an on-off switch for chat bubbles?
It shouldn't be hard at all, I don't think.
That'd be very easy, I think.
I don't know anything about scripting, so I just won't talk out of my side of my mouth, which is my bottom. So we can do something like that, and that'd be great for role-playing later on, and then I can, like, post on Star Wars, hey, look what we did. Seriously, there's this guy on the Star Wars forum, and I said, you know, it shouldn't be that hard, X, Y, and Z. I'm like, I know this guy named Nelson and Jason Busby who could do this in a blink of an eye. And he's like, what is he, like Neo? I'm like, they're better than Neo. Anyway, I won't go into it.
I might
You
not.
receive the message either way, so it's just a matter of either displaying it in a chat window or as a bubble.
I'll see if
both.
maybe I can put something together. I'm not the most efficient when it comes to coding, but I can usually bash something and make it work, and later on I'll figure out why it works and make it work better.
Awesome.
I like it.
I like it. Does anybody else have any art aspects that we can show real quick before we talk more about game stuff development?
Sadly, I don't. I got a couple of emails that suggested to me that this was actually going to be happening tomorrow, so I didn't get anything uploaded. But I will make good on that for next week.
I'm holding you to it. Otherwise, kittens will cry.
Roger that.
All right, why don't you take Mr. Wolf's screen and let's see what he came up with for page 6. And Mr. Ray, explain to them the method of madness to how we're going to have like 12 to 15 pages done by next Friday.
Well, I think we can get to 10.
Yeah, I called it.
What did you say? I didn't hear anything.
Said he thinks we can get to 10.
Yeah, you did
Well,
call it.
we have a lot halfway done and it's penciled out. I just need to get my butt going and just stay up later to get my 2 pages done. I know Mr. J, he's got his page done. So there's 3 more pages on top of whatever we already have. And I know you're working on this right now, Mr. Steve, to get all this stuff implemented on 3D Buzz with the home page, whether it's a banner or a small link. With my idea was to put, well, mine and Steve wanted to do a banner, but like the daily drops, you have a small little box for real estate that, you know, like, hey, here's page blah, click on this. And we can just do part of like a thumbnail, the close-up of Cynthia's face here, where there's her side profile. We show that, and this is page whatever.
And I gave that some thought, and I think I do like that idea better, mostly because then as that starts to roll off the homepage, we'll be really motivated to get the next group of pages done so we can make a new post.
It's a good idea.
Well, we have 5 pages in the can finished. This is page number 6. Page number 7 is one that Derek was working on last week or the week before, and that's Cynthia's argument with her mother the night before she goes on her quest. Then page 8 is something that Nick was working on, and we've looked at some of the line art on that. That's the establishing shot of the quest arena. Page 9, Derek has already done some work on, which is her father giving her a war staff that has stones in it that are similar to the one that is her soul stone. And then what we haven't done any work on is page 10, which is going to be 2 to 3 panels that are the actual ceremony where she's told what's going to happen to her, and then she is teleported. So the very last panel on page 10 will be her turning transparent as she's teleporting to her first quest. So if we can finish those up and get that 10th one done from scratch, we've got the next 5 pages.
Nice. That's not bad. 10 pages for a comic book.
Yeah.
No, that's
And
not
then
bad at
I've
all.
already outlined 14 panels. I don't know how many pages it might take, but for her first challenge, which would be the next X number of pages. Let's just say 14 panels over 5 pages. That would be the next drop after that. So we can do it in 5-page chunks possibly.
And 5 pages was kind of about what I was thinking of doing for a drop. I just wanted to get us out ahead of that a little bit before we dropped them on the homepage. But we're getting there. So.
Well, if we can get this 5 worked out over, let's say, the next week, then we can start working on the 5 after that, and you should have some elasticity in the scheduling at that point.
Yeah,
if we get a
exactly.
pipeline
That'll
going,
work
I
out
think we
nice.
can knock out 5 pages in a week or two.
I love it.
I love it. I want some more of it. Sorry. Impulse control problems.
And Wolf, I saw this page earlier. It sucks, man. You got to redo it completely.
Yeah, I figured you'd say that.
No, it looks good. I like it.
Thanks.
Your
I'm going
shading's
to be
getting better.
dropping words on that tomorrow.
Well, you both talked over each other. Ray first.
Go ahead, Ray.
I said I'm going to be dropping words on that page tomorrow.
Cool.
And I said that your shading is continuing to improve.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this one. It's just grown on me as I keep liking it more. So I like this first one, this first panel, how it's a very idealized kind of look. It's bright, it's shiny. They're all they're drawn really close, bunched together, and there's a frame around it, of course, and it's just kind of it really shows them as that click. And then down here it shows like Cynthia's isolation and how she's different, and I think that's shown in both. I mean, the background color scheme is because she's embarrassed. It's kind of that's the inspiration for that. And then these guys have been desaturated and lightened, and I actually added to her saturation, so she's more saturated than she has been by a little, and it really also, I mean, first of all, I mean, it helps give depth to the picture because it looks like they're away, but it also kind of helps to make her different. She has all that dirty saturation on her.
Dirty Cynthia.
Yeah. Look at this. See, this is just flat colors before the saturation. Of course, it's also before the shading. Then, boom! It just
It pops.
That's
yeah,
much
it's
better,
such a
yeah.
big difference. What's that?
And
That's
I do
much
like
better.
that desaturation. I was going to ask if that was intentional or not because it worked so well.
Yeah, it's very intentional because it's like here, completely flat, and it's also it's really hard to distinguish between, they just all look like this. I don't know, the same kind of color, right? It's confusing for the eye here. It's you have that added dimension and stuff.
Let me ask you something. Well, if you have the page where Cynthia's dad's given her the staff, correct? The inked version?
No, never give it to me.
Okay, well, remind me again after class. Let me go ahead and send that to you so you can work on it. I'm going to the beach. Yay! I'm bringing my computer to work on. Yeah, not so good. But I will have that next page for you specifically by Tuesday of next week. So then you'll have my 2 pages. You'll have Mr. J's page to work on. Mr. J, are you up to doing another page?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Mr. Ray, if you can throw him what he needs to do after the staff, after the page we just did, we'll get him to do that page. That way we'll have 5 in the can and 5 ready to go as well. And Steve, I would suggest putting 3 pages out at a time instead of 5.
Ray?
Yeah.
Right up here, is that where that symbol would be? Up where they are?
Well, as I'm looking at this, what I would have, rather than try and rework the layout, you see the steps that do the semicircle up, right. So if we put the Grand Madge on the top step, and then the next 4 steps would have the air, water, fire, and ground, and then she'd be where that group of people are. We just zoom in on that, and there would be on the ground, so we'd be doing it from, let's say, a 3/4 above.
Right.
and then she'd be standing in the center of the
Symbol.
that pattern that you developed.
Right.
You'll have, whenever anyone is teleporting, they're standing in the center of that pattern.
But
So I think looking at this, that layout would work. And then we just went in the background a little, maybe you don't even need it at all, but we could drop something in the background where the next page where she's getting the staff from her father that just hints that she's in this same place. And then page 10 would be a series of shots where they'd end up with her being teleported in this same place.
Yeah, it does look as she's standing right outside though. So
Yeah, yeah, she's standing right outside in that one. So all you need to do to set up the background would be to do the like arena little things on the side. Those are supposed to be people. I might go back and edit that before you color it, just to make it look more like a crowd on the sides there. Or you could just set it up so you're looking down towards the steps, because as long as you have that same sort of geometric shape there, it'll establish her being inside that shape.
All right, good point.
Don't we need the handprint thing that?
I just assumed that it was described to me as a transporter pad, so I assumed it was going to be on the ground, and that's why I put it at that angle so that you can't actually see anything there because you're looking at it like on edge.
There is a ground thing, but there's also supposed to be kind of a little pillar type thing that you put your hand on the top of it.
I could add that in real fast too.
Of course, that could be behind these guys. They could be standing in front of it, blocking it.
I was thinking they were just standing around like preparing the thing in that one, and then they could move to wherever they needed to go in the next one.
Is this supposed to be a crowd of people?
Yeah, I was going to go through and edit that. I was supposed to be a crowd of people, but I can change it. Like, okay. I was incredibly tired when I was doing that, and I just sort of gave up and finished it fast.
You know what? You finished it. That's the big thing. I was talking to this guy named Richard Clark Jr. from Jericho. Yay, Jericho fan. And he's developing a script, and I got to throw a lot of ideas that way. And he's like, you know what? We're going to develop this. We're going to do it. And that's what sets big boys and little boys aside. Little boys talk the talk, but don't walk the walk. You walk the walk and talk the talk. You got a page done, and I'm proud of you for that.
Hey, Derek, can I make these my moons instead of yours, or should I make them your moons that you did on the first page?
Well, that's a good question. Probably for continuity's sake. It's been so long since I've looked at the first page, I got to kind of look at it.
Right.
And where were you thinking about putting in the trees, just out of curiosity? Because I can do, like, ink outlines for them and stuff.
You know, I was thinking, you know, maybe a little bit, maybe might have to be like a little patch here. I don't know.
Kids, yeah, it's just going to be like a little,
maybe a little
like treetop kind of thing.
Maybe like one here or something like that. Just a little bit. Just a little.
Because the only place you'll really be able to see the tree as a tree instead of just like a lump of leaves from the air would be right in front of the arena thing there.
Huh. Well, it seems like you would be able to see a little bit of the tree.
Yeah, it'd be like more of like a forest kind of thing over there, where you'd see like a ball of leaves and like a little tiny like 1 pixel stick kind of thing. Because I'm thinking like those are like skyscrapers in the background, so if you're like driving down the road and you have like hills in your city, you'd be seeing just like the tops of the trees. You wouldn't be able to see much of the tree.
I tell you what, on that aspect, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a 5-minute to 7-minute break. I know 50 Shades of Nelson is jonesing for his coffee break, so to speak. Hint. We'll be back in about 7 minutes. I'm going to wrap up the art section, and then we're going to talk more about game aspects. Is that good with everybody?
Yep.
Yep.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. I personally just did 500 fingertip push-ups because I messed up earlier on an art rendering. Mr. Nelson ate 3 pieces of pizza, and he's back. He's my handler, 50 Shades of Nelson. We got the entire cast ensemble here for our art team. So what were we talking about, gentlemen?
I was mostly getting organized for the last couple of comic book pages.
That's what I'm trying to do right now.
Talking about the mages as well.
Right, go ahead and have that discussion again. Your idea, what you're wanting to do for the Air Mage.
Me? Oh, I just want him to be. I envision him as being older, much older, and kind of gnarled, kind of big knuckles, gnarled kind of figure. But you know, I mean, but yeah, I mean, he can still use air just as good. This magic.
Right. Mr. Nelson, go ahead and take my screen back, if you don't mind, and I will kind of like render the Earth guy out, a quick sketch as we are talking and going on, so people can see stuff as we're talking here. This part, do we have any more art stuff, real quick, to look at?
It didn't sound like it. We did. Unless somebody else has joined.
Yeah, I think we already looked at my page, so that's about all I got this week.
Is Mr. Clinton here yet?
No.
All right. No problem. All right, so I guess this aspect here, I really want kind of a one-on-one with Mr. Nitro and Mr. J. I want them to share the ideas. Nitro has been here pretty much from the get-go, and he has had a wealth of information. I want you guys to kind of share what's going on and your thoughts about where we should start out with. Have the other ladies and gentlemen jump in for, you know, I guess the game aspect, and kind of figure out what's going on from here as you guys kind of watch me rendering out. So, Mr. Nitro, Mr. Big J, go for it.
Yeah. Do you want to start, or should I, Nitro?
I guess we can kind of start with where we thought kind of like the milestones should be for the game. At first, we wanted to try to release something that is playable, but is only a fraction of what we're aiming for, and that I think we sort of discussed quite a lot earlier. I posted a link to the forum discussion where basically the first phase should just be focused on sort of like the combat, the sort of what skills you have, and the PvP aspect, where it could be the humans had just arrived at Alethea, and there's a lot of friction going on. Where the second phase would then start to introduce more story aspects, and they're trying to resolve their differences. And then the third aspect, or third phase, should be a lot more like an MMO.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking something along the same lines, where you'd start out by just building the set and the characters and the basic game mechanics, and you just have people play with that stuff just to make sure you're making a fun game before you add any story to it.
Yeah.
It would be like,
And
you
I
build the environments, yeah.
How much I agree with that.
So just to start out, like the first things we're going to need to do are work out how we're going to build a level, stuff like that. Like the maximum level we want for the character classes, sort of really basic general stuff.
I'm wondering whether the first phase actually needs levels. Like
Yeah.
it may not.
Well, so basically the first phase, I just want to do levels just so we can have like anyone that wants to do environmental art have something to work on. Just so and you could add some more variety so people aren't stuck running around in the same like arenas or whatever we're going to build first.
You mean maps?
You're
You mean
talking
maps,
about
not
maps, not
character
levels.
level.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about character levels.
Okay,
I
yeah.
personally like the idea of levels, as in leveling, because I want people to have rewards and what's going on like that.
I agree, but I think the first phase, just being
Right.
PvP, we want to focus on the combat system. We don't necessarily want to focus on the MMO aspects of leveling, questing.
Yeah.
Well,
instances,
you're going to need to
all that
focus at
stuff.
least a little bit on the levels so you know how many abilities to give each champion or
Yeah.
each character
Well,
class. So we're going to
I-
need at least a little bit of that in there.
I
Yeah,
don't know
that's true.
because I mean, you don't really need to decide how much you give a player or how much they gain each level. So I mean,
Well, we don't need to know
think-
like how much they gain. We just need to know what the end point is. So you can give them an end game style character and make sure that it's fun to play them.
it seems to me that that's what you should do first, is to build the characters at max level, whatever that would be at the maximum amount of
I'm just saying you need
skills
to
and
think
stuff.
about that, yeah, just so you know how to limit the skills, how you're going to like make the skills scale and stuff, because that's really like basic
And then-
groundwork stuff, like
then
how many
reverse
hit points they
engineer
have. Yeah.
It always needs to be in your mind while you're designing it. You need to be thinking of those sorts of things.
So yeah, we'll do it at max level, but we need at least some basic stuff like I don't even think we should put all the classes in. I mean, if anything else, just to get started, we should just do like one class for each race, just to get things started, just to make it easy.
I had an idea of like not necessarily the standard classes of an MMO, but I really like the idea where you can kind of choose the direction of your class and have focus points. Like if you want to focus on melee combat, then you can. You're not restricted to a class doing that, but that was one idea I posted about that a while back as well.
Yeah,
I
Right,
agree
but-
with that, yeah.
You can still have, like, I think it would still benefit, even if we did do that, it would still benefit us to start off with classes just so we could test how things work with because it's just going to be more complicated the more different variables that you have. So like set just a few variables and then later add.
Yeah,
more
that's what I meant by one
variables.
class. So like if we're
Yeah,
gonna
that's
do
true.
like where you can mix and match different elements, like in another MMO you could like pick like the healing tree and like a tank tree and mix them together kind of thing. We
Yeah.
just pick like one build for each class basically, where we just build one like set tree for them to switch through for each class, just to make sure it's fun to play, like in terms of how we're doing the mechanics for combat. Then we'll go back in and add classes in the next build, like give them more options, let people respec and change stuff around, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so the first phase would kind of be basically like presets of
Right.
what they could choose later on.
I mean, otherwise balance would be so confusing because you'd have so many variables. It's best to have just a few and go, how do these work together and get those balanced, and then go, okay,
Yeah.
what if we add a little this to this one or something?
And that's one of the other things I wanted to talk about. Like, if we want to do asymmetric balance so we aren't so worried about, people doing the exact same amount of DPS if they're playing DPS classes or something like that, we need to work out, like, a basic system. Like, ranged people don't do as much damage as a melee person because the melee person has to take a higher risk to run closer to do the damage kind of thing. You need to set up guidelines like that so you know how to set up the classes.
I'm not sure how I feel about a ranged character doing little damage, though. I mean, bullets are pretty
It's
dangerous
not going to be a lot
objects,
less
so-
damage. It's going to be like, your damage will do like...
It wouldn't be burst damage.
It wouldn't be
certain
burst damage. Like, the melee person's going to come up and just do like a boatload of damage in one shot. But like in terms of overall DPS, you're going to be the same. The ranged person's going to be shooting faster kind of thing. And it could be, when we're playing it, we're going to balance it out so that the melee person just has more like abilities to deflect damage or something like that as they close the gap between the ranged person. But there has to be some sort of system so the melee person feels like they aren't completely screwed over when they're going up against a ranged person.
So no one shot, one kill?
No, like that might work in an FPS, like a first-person shooter, but like it's going to take...
Right.
I don't want it to be like a huge, long, drawn-out fight, but it needs to be at least a couple shots to kill somebody.
Yeah, the one thing I can't get behind is the idea that somebody gets hit in the head and then they just keep on running. It's not going to happen. So I don't know, maybe if there's like a...
I was thinking...
Maybe if there's like a critical hit mechanic or something like that, then that's where you appear to get shot in the head and your guy goes down or something.
Well, you could do a lot of stuff with animation where your hit points are really just your character's ability to avoid or deflect damage. So as you're running through the damage, your hit point bar is going down, but it's animating more like you're dodging shots or it's deflecting off your armor, stuff like that.
That would be epic, yeah. And then just have the actual I've been shot animation play out when you run out of health.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
speaking of animation, I know the Xbox, the new one that's coming out, and a guy named David Miller was just on the last radio show, was talking about how we can use the Xbox to drive our animations now. How cool it would be to have a class into doing epic animations driven by our Xboxes.
Well, we have a lot of choices if we're using the Unity engine. Yeah, you can use the Connect with Xbox and do your own motion capture. You can get quite a few animations through like Mixamo, and Unity 4 also has the Mechanism feature now, which allows you to animate in engine and create anim trees in engine. So we will have a lot of options in terms of how to animate what we want to animate.
That's true.
And there are lots of little animation things we can talk about later, like in terms of like conversations and stuff to make them seem more real. Because I go to like a local game developers like associated meetings like every now and then, and they have like a big AI person, and a lot of what he talks about is using simple animations to make you think the computer is actually thinking about stuff when it's not. And you just do animations with random variable kind of things.
Well, one thing I've noticed is that it's a universal concept that if somebody's shooting bullets at you, you're going to want to have something between you and those bullets. And if it's not armor or shield, it's going to be some kind of cover. How difficult do you think it might be to set up some kind of cover mechanic gameplay for the melee characters to basically dodge in and out and get close to someone?
They did that in one game. It didn't.
Star Wars.
No, it wasn't Star. I mean, they might have done that. There's some other thing. It's by the same guy who did. Is it Ultima?
Yeah.
The problem with the cover system is you're not actually moving towards your target then, which makes it really difficult to use.
It also means you gotta have good level design as well.
Right. You gotta be vigilant on putting those down.
Yeah, otherwise you have nowhere to hide behind.
It's just easier to give like characters abilities that let them like dodge bullets better or like absorb the impacts and like store up the energy or something weird like that.
Yeah, but like we would still want them to have like the ability to crouch, wouldn't we?
Right.
Yeah, like if he ducks behind a truck, then that's free cover until the thing blows up.
Yeah, I think what you do is like the old D&D stuff where it's like line of sight for things. Like you can do a lot of calculations based off of just setting up line of sight beforehand.
I also think we should use elevation to give you I don't know, like either accuracy or some kind of bonus.
Well, yeah, if you're going to be a sniper on like the high ground, then yeah, you should be able to do I don't know, shoot farther or like you said, do more damage.
You just default have an advantage if you have elevation because it's a lot easier to move in and out of cover that way.
Well, we can also do that for starting grounds. We can have, if you're going to be a sniper, you go through a training period at a school, and that's one of the things that they stress.
Yeah, I'd like to do a lot more of like teaching you to play your class through storyline and gameplay instead of being like, oh, click this button and you'll be better off, kind of thing.
You can also have an environment that makes harder to range invisibility, I mean, such as fog, but also just I don't know, being in tall grass or things like that.
And unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to upload this to Dropbox, but one of the things that I have been working on is essentially a proposal for equipment design, how your gear, how your clothes, how your weapons are going to work. So I was thinking, like, as far as pistols, for example, you'd have perhaps 3 different sizes. And essentially the idea is that I'll upload the documents so that you guys can take a look at it, let me know what you think, but the idea is that it would be kind of complex under the surface, but it would essentially allow people to create a character and make that character look like anything they want, right down to what holsters they've got on their belt.
Hold on a second, I want to say something to Derek. Hey Derek, what about, I feel like Earth Guy should have a giant warhammer or something like that. You know, that's more like split the Earth with, you know, something. Anyway.
No, I like that idea. Hold on.
Yeah.
We will make another as you guys continue to
more unique. More unique.
But yeah, I was thinking something similar where you just make a bunch of equipment and put like socket slots in it, so you'd put in like whatever armor you want, whatever kind of damage you want to deal, that kind of stuff into the socket of the item. So it would be less reliant on the appearance of the item and more reliant on the kind of stuff you put into the item.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be cool if the sockets were actually visual on the characters. That would be kind of cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. Like sticking like heavy armor would put armor plates over whatever, but
well, you put a red socket in, you can see the red socket on a piece of armor.
Yeah, but well, I'm thinking more in terms of like the Star Wars stuff where you socket like a certain armor class worth of like socket into whatever you're wearing and a
Yeah,
certain
that's
like
true.
barrel. So it wouldn't be like it appear as a red crystal. It would appear like you'd get like bulky patches on whatever it was. And I think
Well,
that'd be something we'd have to implement later down the line. It's not
I-
something
I-
we're worried about
Wouldn't
right
it be a lot easier to, in terms of modeling and stuff, simply to have sockets that show up with simple jewels or whatever? That's easy to recognize that they're buffed, but without having to radically change a bunch of models.
Well,
It could be, but I was thinking more you just have a couple nodes on whatever it was and you'd tack on like a certain
Even hide or
Steve,
hide
it's
or show.
Gribble.
a hide or show, yeah.
well,
You gotta
essentially,
admit that's
like,
Gribble.
what I was thinking, what I'm basically
Grable.
Josh,
working on.
you're near Greenville.
What I was basically thinking of is that this would not only determine what your character has for armor and stuff like that, but like for example, if you choose to equip a belt, that's really not going to provide any armor protection per se, but you could say, okay, I want 2 holsters on this belt for 2 different pistols, and then a holster on your back for a rifle or something like that, and that would basically determine what weapons you have active in your inventory, able to switch to at a moment's notice without having to go to your backpack and pull out something else.
I like, if I understand it correctly, I like the idea of for the humans, for you adding something to the slot to armor and having that it change it a little bit, but I think that would go nice. I think that it'd be nice if the humans did that, and then for the Alethians who have all these crystal jewels to just have.
It'd just be a cosmetic difference between the two. Like the Alethians, you would just be socketing a crystal. Kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that would be nice because otherwise it's just like that makes the humans seem too much like the Alethians. It's like, what, do they have magic crystals too? You know, and it's like something, maybe something more that you could explain instead of like crystals that you would get like a you know, some kind of mechanic piece or some kind of
Yeah.
device,
Like I said,
some
that's
chip
something
or
we.
something. What?
Like I said, that's something we work on later down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely like the visuals for it are later, but the basic mechanics are something we'd want earlier on.
Well, I'll keep writing it up, and I'll put it in the Dropbox for you guys to peruse, and I don't know, maybe we can chat about it on a later video.
Well, we'll
That's
start
good.
next week in that first hour, really starting to nail some of this down. Does anybody have actual level design, as in like map level design experience, in terms of you know, like shooting lanes, cover, what makes for balanced gameplay?
I've got plenty of resources on that. I just haven't actually had to do that yet.
Surprise!
Like
Cool.
I've got all my old textbooks and stuff, so I've got stuff, at least a chapter in some book covering that, I'm sure.
Awesome. It would be really cool if you could share some of that, if any of it's linkable, or a list of some of the books where you found it. Or
Okay, yeah, I could just make a
I've
list of
got
my
a
old
little
textbooks.
bit on it, but not much. I mean, I've done lots of level building, but never really with gameplay mechanics in mind, especially in you know, person versus person sense.
Mhm. I think that definitely for like the PvP maps, that sort of thing would need to be looked at very carefully. But if it's like an open world scenario, you can't be guaranteed that it's going to be equal
Yeah.
across the board, so you're going to have somebody at a disadvantage. And I think that's part of the challenge, part of the fun, is finding a way to overcome that.
Yeah,
You could do things.
Oh, certainly if we get into big worlds, yeah, part of that is walking in and realizing that you just walked yourself into a screwed position, and you've got to do something about it fast.
I think the only thing in terms of that we need to be concerned with, since we're doing just the open world PvP to start with, is just making sure that the base camp where you spawn in is relatively protected.
You could also do things like if there's 100 players on one side and only 10 on the other side, the 10 are at like quite a disadvantage, so maybe you could pump out like artificial intelligence reinforcements or something that help out that team.
I know
That's pretty
How
sweet.
hard is it scripting-wise? Do any of you remember Day of Defeat? It was a mod for Half-Life.
Awesome. Yep.
I used to just play that relentlessly, and they had a great feature where when you went to load up and get in game, you might be like, I want to be on the ally side. But if it was unbalanced, the game would just go, tough, you're on the German side for this game. I'm keeping it balanced. And it would kind of plug you in.
Yeah, I think for the alpha where we're just testing mechanics, we might want to do something like that, where it just sticks you in on one side or the other, and we don't actually worry about which races together kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could have, I would imagine sort of several updates for the first phase as well, and maybe for the first initial release, you would do something like that. You wouldn't really care about the races, but then you would slowly introduce better sort of management mechanics.
Because, I mean, if we're just releasing like an alpha just to have something playable online for people to show off on, and just to get people to playtest it for us, then we're not going to be too worried about story or stuff like having the races divided or the balance like that at first. It's going to be more just making sure the maps and the classes are playable and the game's actually fun to play.
Yeah, we basically
I think it's
got a lot of feedback.
I think for the first phase, you'd want to aim to end at that point, though, so it sort of leads into the MMO.
Yeah, like, so just, like, the first phase is just, I'm going to call it just early alpha, where we're just playtesting mechanics, and then, like, the next update is where you'll start introducing story and separate the races and stuff. Just so you can get a playable game, just something out there first is, I think, like, the goal for the first bit.
I would probably go further than that. I would say... Sorry.
I wasn't here for the first MMO, but my understanding was they did reach a point where they had a playable level, but it was, I mean, it was literally like just egg shapes in a blocked out map running around. Just
The map was awesome. The map
testing the play mechanics, and I mean, people played that relentlessly, and there were virtually no visuals, you know, and they had a blast playing with that. So that very early alpha, we're just looking for a lot of feedback and make sure that we have the mechanics right.
Yeah, and like, that's just to give us like a more short-term deadline. Then after that, you start working in like the gameplay mechanics. I mean,
I would try to break it up more than that, though. I think for the PvP side, that should actually be a proper release, not necessarily an alpha. And then the second phase would actually be another release goal, like an expansion on top of the whole game. But in between those major milestones, you would have your alpha builds, you would have your betas and all that sort of stuff leading up to it.
Yeah, we could do it that way. I'm more worried, like, I'm not going to think too much about the next stage until we actually get to that point. I'm just going to worry about setting stuff up so we can get to that point.
Yeah.
Or it'd be easy to get to the next stage right now.
Nelson, on the programming side, how far away are you guys from us being able to implement some of that stuff?
It's all dependent on what we get done these next few weeks, or what I get done the next few weeks.
How about if we provide, as artists, you with 3D models instead of using egg? Just if you gave us the specs of what you need for a model, we could actually give them to you.
Well, mind you, Nelson's not a game designer, right? Nelson, you don't even know what specs you need, do you?
I can figure it out, and it depends. We need to do testing, and to see what kind of features we want.
We could even use that as testing, so we could do, like, we could make a few different models with different numbers of polygons and just see what the engine can run with how many people in it.
I might be biting off more than I can chew here, but Nelson, if you need any help with that, I'd like to do what I can.
Yeah, it's just a matter of how far I get in the next 2 weeks or so. Then I'll have a better idea of where we're moving forward.
Yeah, I'm also up for helping as well. I've got sort of C# coding experience.
Okay.
So delegation is your key, my friend, Mr. 50 Shades of Nelson.
Well, we certainly have plenty of design stuff to go over to eat up a couple weeks. So I guess next week probably our first bet should be figuring out exactly what those classes are going to be on each side, that first single class.
Yeah, that first single class. I'm kind of thinking it should be one of the simpler classes too. So you want somebody that will have like a mix of like ranged and melee stuff, just so you can test both of them. So you want like a warrior kind of person that would have a gun and like a melee weapon.
Maybe like a combat medic or something on the human side, so you have someone that can do damage and heal.
We could even mix it up and not make it an official class, but just since we're going to be mixing up classes anyway, we could do a range damage one, like a melee tanky one, and like a healing class, just so you can switch between each one of those abilities.
Well, I have an idea for like skills and stuff like that, like a skills list we could use to essentially combine certain skills and use that to sort of generate a class-based framework that you could expand outside if you wanted to. But otherwise, you just keep adding to those skills and build up your guy. I'll work on that too. Get that up on the Dropbox in like the documents area.
Excellent. Alrighty, well, what do you have for the art side for next week, Derek?
Hold on, keep talking. I'm doing a spot block.
Okay, so one thing before we do anything like super, we need to work out. That's one of the earlier things we need to work out is how we're actually going to set up the classes. Are you going to have like an ability tree you pick up for each one? Or are you going to have skills you'd be able to train?
Yeah. I think we need to know where we're going to be heading before we start introducing these classes in the first release.
Yeah, we need to make sure we know like the very, very, very basic class mechanics before we actually start doing anything more than that.
I personally like the idea of like a list of skills more so than a tree. It gives you the opportunity to be more flexible if you choose, and then it's up to you to decide if you want to be a jack of all, a master of none.
I see it as two skill trees though, where you would have focal points in your combat sort of skills, and then a second tree for support sort of skills, which is your tanking skills, your healing skills, your and that sort of stuff, where they're completely separate. So you can level them together at the same time, but you're not then reliant on looking for a tank, waiting for a tank for an instance, or waiting for a healer. Like everyone has these the potential to mold their own version of a tank that can also do DPS.
I'd also like to work out a system where there's like a lot more movement than there is in current like MMOs, because like a lot of times when I'm playing them, you just park yourself in one spot and start shooting. I don't think that's particularly realistic or fun.
No.
Guild Wars 2 does it quite interesting with the dodge mechanics. That's kind of fun.
I really love that. I love the aspect that you can actually use your shield and block. Because, you know, in World of Warcraft, love their game, but you have the shield. It just adds to your armor, but there's no skill involved.
Yeah, I was thinking about making like abilities like for every class that would give you some ability to deflect damage, like either like a dodge lets you like dodge better for a few seconds, or
I like the idea
like
of a more active combat system in the sense that you would be the one controlling whether your shield is working, and then if you're doing that, obviously your focus is not on attacking the guy.
I'd also like it just since we're not shooting people, I want to do like skill shot kind of things where you shoot a spell in a direction instead of at a target. If we can pull that off, just so that it makes moving around and positioning to avoid those skill shots that much more important.
Well, if we do a skill shot based sort of thing, I mean, how difficult would it be, say I'm playing a sniper and I line up for a headshot, in game mechanics make that triple damage. So in theory you could have one shot, one kill if you're good enough to get him in the head, or lucky enough to get him in the head.
If you're actually targeting stuff, I think coding-wise it's a lot more difficult than just saying, okay, I have this target.
Yeah. As a third-person sniper, you won't actually like zoom in on them. You'll like use an ability that's called like headshot that will do a lot more damage than like your regular auto attack would be. But it'd be one of those things where you'd have to like calculate, can I sit here long enough to like channel this ability where I like have my character zoom in and scope them out and all that kind of stuff.
Be really cool if you have a mechanical guy later on in levels for your spotter, because I mean snipers work in teams. You have your spotter, you have your guy, the shooter.
Yeah, I'd do, if we're doing something like that, I'd have him like, you'd use like your little robot and have him send out a mount spot for you, and it just reduce like it increase your damage a little bit and also reduce the channel time, so you'd be able to shoot and move a lot faster than you would otherwise.
I do like the idea, though, that if you have something that does just devastating damage like that, that there's a high risk involved for you, that you got to stay in the same spot and power up, and somebody could kill you in that time.
Yep.
That's a part of what I was talking about earlier, where we have to calculate like the basic risk rewards for like high damage abilities, and like do you get extra stuff for actually moving in close and doing melee, that kind of thing.
Yep.
All right, so guys, on the first hour design side, what do you think we all need to come to the table with next week? Because the guy leading the class is a first-person shooter guy. Most of what you guys say is Russian to me, completely.
Okay, I think we need to come up with some concepts of where the MMO skill tree needs to go to, just some sort of low-level stuff. Then we can actually decide what sort of individual class skills we can add.
I think you need to go through, like, everyone should go through their favorite games and pick out their favorite elements and actually, like, make charts of how they work in-game. Like, not classes, but, like, really basic mechanics, like skill trees, you know. Have, like, a rough sketch or, like, a Word document so you can talk about it.
Yep.
I like that. All right, so next week for the design aspect, we're going to do basic skill trees. Doesn't have to be any big or fancy, but for extra bonus points, throw some extra, you know, high-level damage. I want to make my own sniper next week. That's what I'm going to try to do. And let's come up with an easy system of, say, eight skills to a tree from start to finish, and that will mod your guy out. It's a nice small number. Doesn't have to be super big, but 8's a good number. Can we agree with 8 skills?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
8 is the magic number. And for the art side, because I'm all snipered out and thinking about it now, art side, I want to build gadgets next week. Anything that it would be cool, whether it's as an accessory to a backpack for a flamethrower, or like I said, the whole idea of having your spotter be a robotic sort of thing that will calculate distance in game for you, wind direction, yada, yada, yada. Be prepared to defend what you did and why you did it. So cool little robotic gears and gadgets next week. Oh, by the way, there's your Earth guy. Any thoughts? Again, 2 different styles.
Is that maybe even more of a on his for the guy on the top right? Say his you can make his left. His right arm more huge gauntleted or something, like a huge gauntlet.
Massive shoulder pad type thing.
Or something like that, to have, and I like how you have, like, it looks like there's like a shield plate attached to his arm. I'd say
Shield to be right through here.
But I think, like, just something that looks like a big fist gauntlet thing that could just looks like it's gonna be able to split the earth or whatever, just like the other one. I think that might be.
Wolf, remember, they use the power of the crystal. This is not Thor.
But it looks cool.
It looks really cool.
It's Greeble.
Greeble power!
Otherwise, just give him a stick and he can do the same damage.
I understand the power of the crystal, and I respect that, but again, we're playing a different aspect that we want it to look cool, so people want it and want to quest for it or want to do small microtransactions. That's the other thing we need to think about. Are we going to do microtransactions? Is it going to be skill-based and quest-based where you get all this cool stuff? Or are we going to try to turn a profit on this? I mean, I hate to talk about that whole aspect, but this will actually drive how we're going to make our game.
Well, I think first and foremost, our concern, I think we should assume we'll be putting this out for free, and our concern is just get it out there.
And have it be fun.
Yeah, and then whether down the line we decide to add in microtransactions or accept advertising dollars or whatever, that's all something that can be implemented down the road. I don't think I think it just detracts from our focus if we worry about that right now.
Especially when you try and do microtransactions before you have a real stable build. So people having trouble connecting with friends and doing things, and yet they've bought equipment that they can't use, or so, whatever, that they're having trouble. They're going to get very angry, much angrier than they would have.
Yeah, we want a fun game that's very stable and working correctly, and that's really all we should focus on for the moment.
I always thought the Diablo real currency auction house could be interesting in an MMO. I don't know why they didn't.
Is that the one they implemented for 3?
Yeah, Diablo 3. It was not really the type of game I don't think that they should have done it for. I think the MMO really.
But you have to have a lot of content before that.
Yeah.
An issue.
Yeah, that's true.
That's gonna be when
Phase 2 or 3.
And actually, EVE Online has something kind of like that.
That should be for people who don't have the time to unlock everything, and they want to jump ahead. And that's, it shouldn't be people paying for just all the best stuff. And if you don't buy it, then you feel like you're not quite there, because people really mostly don't like that.
Yeah, it needs to be. Yeah. Anyway, it needs to be, if you're going to do microtransactions, you want it to be more cosmetic, where you can make your character look cool than anything that would actually affect the game in terms of.
Yeah, because otherwise you have a noob come in with a lot of money and.
Well, I'm okay. I'm okay with a noob coming in and buying good gear if they don't have the time. It's just what's the difference between somebody who's plays 24/7,
I agree, so long as that's gated to a degree. I don't want somebody coming in and becoming so OP that
not
even fun to begin a map they're on. But
yeah, but I would agree, and likewise I would say that somebody who plays nonstop, and there's no way that anybody could actually have a life and
well, what you have to do is figure out a way to make something seem rewarding without making the game unbalancing, kind of thing.
Right.
So you either do more cosmetic, or it'll give you like some ability that doesn't actually break the game. But it makes you feel like
something unique.
Something.
Yeah.
Yes, something that you can
ladies
show.
and gentlemen, we need to do a round table and wrap it up. Save all the good discussion for online. I encourage you guys to go to the forums. And again, next week for the design team, we need to come up with a skill tree with 8 skills to it. No more, no less. Our teams are going to be drawing gadgets, and you will need to defend why you made your gadgets, what they are, and what they're utilized for. Roundtable, Mr. Ray, you got anything to add?
No, I'm just hoping that next week we'll be pretty close to having the next 5 pages done.
Roger that. I'll get mine done. Mr. J, you'll have yours done, correct?
Yeah, I was going to tweak some stuff on mine after talking to people, and I guess I need the information for page 10, I guess.
Well, I did send you the script. Originally, it was a lot fewer pages, but people have been taking 2 pages to do what the script called for as 1, and it probably meant that the script was wrong. So I now have it blocked out into 10 pages up to the point where she teleports out. So I think that works.
Okay. Hey, I just saw both those emails.
Jay, is it Thanksgiving out there?
I'm sorry?
I said, Jay, is it Thanksgiving out there?
Oh, no. Why do you ask?
Because you took an awfully big plate this week. You sure you're going to be all right?
In terms of setting up the game mechanics, I already have a lot of that written out in a Word document, so I can actually go through that pretty fast. It's just going to be making pretty pictures for
If you want to send it to me, I'll add some comments as well.
Okay.
Please do.
Yeah. I'll post it. I'll post my stuff up on the forums. It probably won't be till Friday when I get that done, but I'll try to get it up there.
Yeah, the more you guys can roundtable prior to class, the better, because on the design side, this really is going to be all about you guys.
Yeah, I was going to do stuff like try to post up. I was going to make a little graphic showing like a keyboard and what buttons I think should do what, that kind of stuff.
Nice.
Yep.
I'll sketch up an idea for inventory management based on what I'm working on here. I did find the design document, so I'll shoot that up to the Dropbox right away here.
Okay. Okay. Does everybody have access to the Dropbox?
That was going to be my next question, yeah. Sorry, who doesn't?
Nitro.
Nitro. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that I do.
Wolf?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell you what, if you guys want to fire your emails over to BuzzNet, I'll send the invite out right away.
Awesome. Thank you for managing that.
No problem.
Derek, I have a couple questions for you.
Yes, sir.
Well, first of all, what page is that one that you sent me with this where she's getting the staff?
Mr. Ray, what page is that? Because page numbers have
That is
been...
page 9.
Okay. On the bottom panel,
Hold on, let me get to it real quick.
there's a third individual there. Is that one of the priests?
Hold on.
I'm not sure who that is.
Let me open this up. Sorry about this.
Also, didn't I see you have one that you were working on where you had a tree drawn?
Yeah, that's the one I have to pencil in or ink in and get ready.
That's the one with
That's the fight with her mother.
Okay, that's 7.
Here we go.
Yeah,
Right.
that one's pretty much ready to color right there.
It
Okay,
is.
you
What
said
we, need,
that-
what we need to do is take this crap out and add some of the stuff that Mr. J's put in there. Put some of the background here because she's looking over down at this that arena area right through here.
The third party is one of the mages. This is at the arena. She's about to go into the ceremony, and her dad comes up to her and says, "Here, you need this staff." And Wolf, you're going to need to put crystals into the staff that match her soul stone. So that's just one of the mages. Could be any one of the mages. Walking by.
It could be the Madge from when she was a little girl.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. All right. So, Derek, are you going to draw?
I've already
that in
sent
on
it off.
the- Huh?
I've already sent this page off to you. What I'm hoping you'll do, since you're going to color it, is with this back. Where's my pointer at?
You said the first. Yeah.
This area right here.
Uh-huh.
Take what Mr. J has, throw some of the aspects in there, just basically cut and paste your color on top of it. This is her looking down at that arena area like that. And then just have fun with all the colors and stuff around here. And definitely do the crystals along the staff.
Yeah, if you want me to do something like from whatever angle she'd be standing at, I don't know where she's looking, but we could just throw some arena in the background real fast. Like I could just do something you could slap in there real quick from the right perspective.
Okay. Can you send one to him as well?
As this, you have the bottom panel on the next page where you see her beginning to come in. Shortly after that, maybe 2 minutes after that, her dad runs up to her, gives her this. And then page 10 is the formal ceremony itself. She's fully in the arena. The mages begin to take their place on those steps, their specific spots, and she's moving into the spot where she's going to teleport. So that's the flow.
Okay.
Let me ask you something, Mr. Ray. Hold on real quick. So we don't need the mountainous background right here. We need to actually have the...
Yeah, that's what I was just going to suggest, is that this shows her back away from it, she was just closer in the previous page.
Right, she was closer, so we need to have...
Or it could even be you could just take out the background there and have her father give her the staff in the entryway I drew there, and just swap out some of the characters, like swap out the characters and stuff, and put the stuff in the background. Because I have it separated into layers, I can pull the characters out and give you just the background to mess with for that.
Okay, that'd be cool.
What do you say? Because the other two panels are fine. It's just that first.
Well, I'm saying for the background for this page right up here, I can take the characters and stuff out of the page that you see it on the bottom panel there, and just give you that background to mess around in those panels.
Oh, okay.
That way we don't have to draw a new background or anything like that. You can just cut and paste.
Yeah, because they're standing outside, I think we only really need it for that first panel, and the other ones we can just I can just do.
There's really nothing in the background. Yeah.
It's just the first panel will establish where she is.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, good. I'm anxious, man. We're gonna have like 10 pages done, and it's taken a while, but we're gonna do it right. We've penciled, inked, lettered, and we're telling one heck of a story. And we're doing it all from around the world, all the way from Germany, all the way from around the United States. I mean, this is pretty darn cool.
And
I'm
then
proud of everybody.
Mexico City and Australia.
Who's in Australia right now?
That's me. Nitro.
Nitro's from Australia.
I did not know that, Nitro. Brilliant. What time is it there?
11 o'clock in the morning.
Wow. Wow, you're from the future. Whoa.
That is brutal.
That is awesome. Thank you for being here. I thought you were from England. Please don't kill me.
So bad.
Anyway, with that said, we'll wrap it here tonight. I'm proud of everybody. I'm very anxious, and it's really about time that we split this class up because we can't do much more art without driving from the game mechanics side. So I'm very happy, very proud, and honored to be a part of all this. Remember to spread the word about the free Manga/Chippy class. It's free to everybody. You don't have to be a member sponsor. We'll relay the dates very soon. Steve's got tons of classes coming up. We got stuff on sale, 3D Buzz. With that, we want more artists.
It's Thanksgiving here, too.
Yeah, put more on your plates. With that, you guys have a great night. Keep your feet on your ground, your ankles slightly above them. From Australia, Germany, all places in the United States and Mexico. Good Abend, good day, and see ya.
Good night, everybody.
And adios. Tschüss.